Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to Homeschooling 101. My name is Mariama Diallo, and I am the lead of the Noor Parent Support Group. So, inshallah, seeking knowledge is an expected mandate upon us as Muslims. So, education is an indispensable need for individual and communities. And we know with the start of the pandemic, since March, a lot of us parents have been wondering, what to do in the fall, what's going to happen, so on and so forth. And I know that there has been a lot of parents who's been thinking about homeschooling. We've actually received a lot of inquiries about homeschooling because a lot of people were, forced to start, schooling their children at home, although they had the support of the school systems. But inshallah, today's meeting, we have two amazing speakers, mashallah, and over the next hour, they will be sharing with us a way of, homeschooling, if that's an option. Inshallah, they're going to share a lot of information and kind of guide you a little bit, open that door for you, inshallah, if you're interested in homeschooling. We will dedicate, inshallah, the last 15 minutes for our Q&A. So definitely, if you have questions, you can start typing those down into the chat box, inshallah. But we will take care of questions at the end of the webinar, inshallah. Sister Dura, Sister Naima, welcome. And our first speaker is Sister Dura, and she's a licensed professional counselor. She's also a community educator at the Family and Youth Institute. She holds a master in counseling and works in a private practice as a child, adolescent, and family therapist at Silent Sunlight Counseling. Her counseling experiences include working with youth and their families in both the school and clinical setting. She has extensive experience and training in group therapy for adolescents and play therapy for children. Her interests include child and family development, attachment parenting, and parent education. Sister Dura has presented a workshop on parenting and youth development at the local and national level. Sister Dura also has been a community organizer for more than 15 years, mashallah. Her efforts have primarily focused on parenting, youth education, and human development. She has also actively worked with Muslims, youth, and families throughout the Muslim America Society. So Sister Dua, thank you so much for being here today. And I'm gonna go ahead and pass it on to you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. In that long list of bio, I think the most important thing for you to know is that I have 3 girls that I've homeschooled over the years. Most of their school life, I've homeschooled them. We probably just took a break for maybe 2 or 3 years, but the rest of the time, my oldest is 16. We've been a homeschooling family. So I think that's the majority of what I would like to share with all of you today, especially since we've kind of all in almost the same boat. We're all kind of thrown into this idea of homeschooling and being the educators for our children. I see in the question and answer that someone says that they can't see the speakers. I'm not sure if this is still the case or not. But I did put a link in the chat box that is a sign-up form for the Family and Youth Institute. We would love to send you more information with regards to whether it's homeschooling or parenting or human development, youth development. If you like, we would love for you to sign up. So just click on that first link in the chat box and you can get more information. We create an email list from the FYI. And in the second list, we created a toolkit for parents and for educators with regards to what you can do with your family and your children during coronavirus and during the pandemic. So it's filled with a lot of really valuable information that you can use with your families. So I've also put that in the chat box for you to take a look at if you like, inshallah. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second. So I'm going to be mainly focusing on the age group of middle school and down. And Sister Naima, inshallah, will be doing high school and up. So I first want to take a step back, and I know that all of us are kind of just thrown into homeschooling, particularly last year during this pandemic. And we were kind of just, you know, it was thrown on us. We're stuck with this. And for all of us, for many of us, this is a very new phenomenon. And particularly with the uncertainty of next year, we're thinking, okay, what's going to happen? What are we going to do? And so the thing that I want to kind of introduce to everyone and to kind of give a different shift or perspective is the idea that homeschooling is not school at home. A lot of people were trying to recreate whatever kids do in the school environment where they go from 8 to 5, and people are thinking that this is how they have to homeschool their kids. And a lot of times people will sit their child in front of their computer or their Zoom or in front of the books the exact same amount of time that they would normally be spending in traditional schooling. And homeschooling is very, very different, and it's very difficult to recreate the school environment. It becomes unsustainable, and we get burned out very quickly if we try to recreate that traditional environment. So my suggestion to all of you, and I'm trying to invite all of you, is to change and to give a shift of perspective in terms of what homeschooling can look like when we're home, based on a number of different factors. The way that school, you know, the first thing is that school environment is very different from the home environment. In the school environment, there's a lot more kids in a classroom. The way that schools are set up is that it has a function of making sure that everybody fits a certain standard and fulfills certain benchmarks. It doesn't necessarily take into consideration the uniqueness of every child. And we have the flexibility in homeschooling to be able to tailor the needs of our education system and what we're teaching our kids based on each individual child and their unique talents and skills. And frankly, because we don't have as many students, we have more time and flexibility to do that. Also, another very important factor that makes homeschooling different from school at home is the dynamic of parent and child. When you're dealing with your child is very different than when a teacher or a stranger, someone from outside the family dynamic, is teaching your child. That could be a pro and a con at the same time, especially for teenagers or adolescents. Sometimes kids have difficulty taking information from their parent. And so we have to kind of maneuver that when they get older. But for the younger age group, that's something that they many times look forward to. They want to kind of please their parents. But really depends on the dynamic of your child. You have to get to know your child better in order to be able to help them learn. And I want you to, would like to invite all of you to think of homeschooling rather than a fixed or structured environment where kids are learning, but perhaps more so a lifestyle or a way of life, where we are taking every opportunity and every chance we can get to instill learning in our children, to instill tarbiyah and understanding of the world around them. And there are people who follow this lifestyle even when their kids are in traditional homeschooling. But having your kids at home opens up the door for us and the opportunity for us to instill those values and instill those, those understanding in our children. We have a lot of flexibility and time when it comes to our children. There isn't morning assembly. There isn't the driving to and from school. There isn't necessarily a fixed time for lunch and recess. So there's a lot of time that we can maneuver. And I'll talk a little bit more about this structured time later, about what it looks like, how many hours you should be expecting for each of your kids. And for you to be able to really focus on understanding your child as a unique individual. So I want you to shift gears for a second from trying to recreate the school environment in the school and start a new page, a new fresh notebook in terms of how we deal with our kids when they're staying with us at home. And right now I don't see the chat box, so if there's any questions, I'll address them inshallah at the end, inshallah. So one way to really tailor the way that we instruct our kids or to do this homeschooling is to really understand our children's learning style. that might not necessarily be the case, or perhaps that's not really allowed for or given the opportunity or time for in the school. Everybody's expected to learn a certain benchmark or to learn a certain thing, even though in some areas or subject areas they might be weaker than others, or they have a certain talent. You know, they might be more kinesthetic, they like the hands-on learning. Some kids like the physical learning. Other kids are auditory learners. And in a typical traditional school environment, it's very difficult to tailor to the needs of all the learning styles of the kids. But when you have your own child in your home, you can take the time to really learn what your child's skills and talents and styles are in order to tailor your learning to their style. And I have here on the slide 3 recommendations for really great books: The Way They Learn, Discover Your Child's Learning Style, and How Children Learn, that kind of give an overview. And I put a little, it's small, I'm sure you can't see it, but when you go to these books, you'll be able to find a more in-depth study and understanding of how to understand what your child's learning style is. And then when you do that, you can tailor your curriculum and what you're teaching your kids according to what they need. I like to think of it as buffet style, but especially in this younger age group, not the older age group, but this younger age group, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, elementary school particularly, and even in middle school. Our job as educators and as parent educators, homeschooling moms or dads, is to provide an opportunity for kids to explore what their interests are and to explore what their talents may be. Perhaps at the very beginning, they might not know what it is, or you as a parent might not know what it is. For some, it's easy. You can pick it up, you can notice it, you know what your child is good at or what they have this interest in. But for some others, you need a little bit of exposure in order to figure that out. So this young age group is a really great opportunity for you to figure out how that is. And I think of it as buffet because it is our responsibility and our job to kind of expose them to different things. So maybe take them to the nature center, or take them to try a new sport, soccer, join a soccer team, or practice archery, or play a musical instrument, or have them exposed to different kinds of books or history, information. So, documentaries. So to be able to give them a wide range of exposure to different things so that you can observe. Part of parenting is this experimentation and observation, and observing what it is that they really like and what it is that draws their passions. And that brings me to the third point, is to be able to follow that. So you take the lead, you see what they're passionate about, what they're interested in, what they're good at, and you follow that, and you provide for them the opportunities to hone those skills and to be better at what they're passionate about. And I put also on the list, even though it's not necessarily a learning style or an educational skill, but I put on the list the love languages, just because it's very important for us to understand what language our child speaks when it comes to love, so we can provide for them that nurturing environment in order for them to learn better. So in the next slide, I had mentioned earlier that you don't need to spend the entire day doing formal instruction with your child. And according to the Illinois State Board of Education, they put together a really nice kind of ballpark time. And I've found that over the years that this is pretty accurate when I homeschooled my kids. And I'm sure Sister Naima will be able to give you more information because she's a veteran homeschooler. She's been doing it much more longer than I have. And really, the preschool, kindergarten, first, elementary age groups, if you're doing more than 2 hours, maximum 3 hours, you're giving them way too much formal instruction. Kids, when they're at this age, they learn by playing, they learn by doing, they learn by exposure. We don't need to be having them sitting down in front of a computer or in front of a workbook or a textbook doing work. This is not how this younger age group learns. As they grow older, they should have a much more larger attention span for them to be able to sit down and really work on the books. But really, when we change this shift, when we shift our understanding of homeschooling, there are so many things that they can learn from the outside environment that they are soaking in that doesn't necessarily have to be bookwork. And a great example, and I'm sure many of you probably experienced this during the pandemic, is through baking or cooking. So the kids are baking and cooking, they're learning measurements, they're learning how to, science. There's a great book that Osborne has that's called Kitchen Science. And there's all these experiments that you can do in the kitchen. But by participating in things like cooking or gardening or woodworking, all of these things, they're learning in that time. And so for us to be able to understand that learning doesn't necessarily have to come from a book or textbook or workbook. And that's really important for kids. So I want to briefly introduce the different kinds of homeschooling. I know that for the majority of you, this is all very new. So I'm going to start off with probably what is the most easiest way or the most simplest way to homeschool or transition into a full-blown homeschooling kind of curriculum. So the first kind of homeschooling that that is out there is what we call out-of-the-box homeschooling or school at home. It's basically a replica or a methodology where you have everything that comes in a box. So, and I'm going to give resources as to what different programs do that. But I did try that for 2 years or maybe a year and a half. And what that is you order an entire curriculum for an entire grade. They send you all the textbooks, all the workbooks, all the teacher manuals, and some of them come with like teacher resources where you can go online, you can watch videos, or you can connect to a formal instructor that will be able to either Zoom with your child, or if they don't have that online Zoom option, they have kind of like a correspondent teacher that kind of checks the homework and grades the assignments and grades the tests that you can send in the mail or you can send by email. And that is a very methodological, way of homeschooling. They have everything written down for you step by step. And this is a really great transition for those who are used to the traditional homeschooling and perhaps might not have the know-how or the time to really create their own homeschool curriculum. And there's so many resources out there, and I'll bring that in the next slide, like Calvert Homeschooling, Oak Meadow Homeschooling, and there's so many of them that you can purchase. They are out there for purchase, and they're quite expensive for some of them. There's some of them that reach up to the typical private school curriculum price, which is like about $9,000, and some of them are in the $5,000 range. Some of them are in the $1,000 range. There's a great range of traditional curriculums that are for that you can buy for purchase. But, which brings me to the second point, many public schools offer a hybrid kind of option where you can sign up your student as a public school student, but you say that I would like to homeschool them, and they use your tax money and they use the money that normally goes into public school to purchase the homeschool curriculum for you. And in that case, it's free. And I've done that many times in the state of Michigan. I live in Michigan. They have an excellent program where you can do that. And I think you'd have to look into more detail in your state laws as to whether or not that's available, or maybe join an online homeschooling forum or group within your state to ask if that option is available. But many states are looking into that, particularly with the pandemic, so that you don't have to actually pay for this out of the box homeschooling, and the district that you live in, the school district that you live in, can provide that service. And I say hybrid public school because even though you're registered as a public school student and everything is free, they do offer options where you can attend like the public school for like electives, or there's sometimes they rent out a space like at a church or something, and they can also you can also like use that for some of the electives and activities. Then there's the online, which is maybe perhaps you might be familiar with, things like K-12, Khan Academy, those type of things are online, and that's also a very traditional kind of approach because they give you step-by-step what's going on. They also have this classical literary-based homeschooling where everything is learned from books, whether it's textbooks or literature books or novels. And this for many people, they like this approach because it's very classical, and it creates children who have a very what do you call, very literature based understanding of the world around them. Unit studies are where you take specific topics that your child is probably interested in, that you would like yourself for them to further pursue and look into. So like, let's say they're into ancient Egyptians. You would check out every book in the library, you would go online, they would create like a lap book or a notebook that refers to ancient Egyptians, and you would spend an entire month or 2 weeks or 3 weeks just focusing on that and trying to incorporate all the different math, all the different subjects within that specific unit study. And by the way, a lot of these programs, sometimes you can pick and choose from all of them together, and that's what we call eclectic. I didn't put it on the list, but eclectic is where you pick and choose. Maybe I like the online for math. Maybe I like the classical literary based for history. A Waldorf schooling is more hands-on, using manipulatives. So for people who have been in the homeschooling for a while, what they do is they kind of mix and match from all of these different types of options. The last 3 options, we have unschooling and world schooling. Unschooling is where you just simply, there's very little textbook knowledge and work from books. It's mostly from the world around them. And world schooling is where families travel, and through their travel, they learn things like language, economics, they learn the culture and music, they learn to journal and write through all of that. And my family has done world schooling for a year, and it's been a great opportunity for my kids. And I thought that that was something that they would have a hole in their learning, but in fact, the travel and learning from the world around them really gave them like an edge. It was really helped them to be much more well-rounded. And then there's religious-based learning. There are quite a few Christian resources out there, as well as some minor Islamic as well. How am I doing on time? I have a few more slides. Mariama, am I?
About maybe 10 more minutes, inshallah.
Oh, great. Okay, that's great. Okay. So on this slide right here, I have a list of resources, and I've kind of categorized them into 3 different, I guess, categorizations, or I've sorted them into 3 different categorizations. So this first column right here are very traditional homeschooling options. So Calvert Homeschool is one of my favorite out of the box options. Many public schools, I know that here in Michigan, we have VLAC, the Virtual Learning Academy, and there is also Oxford Virtual Academy, where many public schools will be willing to pay for Calvert because it has been around for such a long time. I think it was since the 1970s or 1960s that they've been around. And so it's a very well-known homeschooling curriculum where many public schools are willing to pay for this out-of-the-box option. If that's not something that's on your agenda and you don't want to register through a public school system and you want to kind of do your own pace and your own thing, you can purchase the books yourself from Calvert. And like I said, they send you everything in a box, including supplies like glue and paper and crayons and paint and everything that you need for that year. They send it to you in one big box. Calvert Homeschool also has an online option. So if you don't want all the textbooks and your child is better served by doing things on the computer, they have that option as well. But it's one of my favorite traditional homeschooling box options. Oak Meadow is another one of my favorites. It's not as traditional as Calvert, is not as rigorous as Calvert, but it's very hands-on. They still send you everything in a box, which makes it very easy, but it's a lot more hands-on. They ask you to do a nature study, for example, and journal on what you see in the outdoors. There's a lot of project-based learning with Oak Meadow versus Calvert is a lot more bookwork. And then I've given an example. So these are the traditional options, and I've given an example of each type, the best of each type that I think, but there's so many more out there that you could also research. Legacy International is a full-blown Islamic homeschooling option online with excellent instructors. They've got excellent instructors. It's a little pricey, but I think you have to talk to them, and there's options where you don't have to buy the entire curriculum. You can pick and choose. You can say, okay, I want to take history with them in English, but I can do math and everything else by myself. But they've got excellent instructors in that particular homeschooling curriculum. There used to be another homeschool curriculum called Kinza. I don't think they're a full-fledged homeschool curriculum right now, but I think some of their books are still circulating around that perhaps you can get on Amazon or something like that. But I know that Legacy International is a full-blown Islamic school online. And then there's Sunlight. Sunlight is a Christian homeschooling program online. And I myself have purchased books and curriculum from Sunlight. I really like the way that they focus on morals and values when they talk about, when they explore language arts and history. But what you can do is, if you purchase an entire grade box option for Sunlight, you can opt out, you can just take out the Bible studies. So that's what I did. When I did that for 1 year, I just took out the Bible studies, but I used their language arts. I really like their selection of novels and books in that particular program, because I didn't want, you could technically go and look at different lists and pick and choose what books you feel are valuable for your kids, but they kind of did the work for me. So that's why I use Sunlight's language arts curriculum. And I just use the reading curriculum. I kind of mix and match for my grammar and other things. And then there's K-12. This is a typical online option that I think is one of the better ones online. And so these are, in this first column, these are kind of what you would use if you wanted a traditional out-of-the-box homeschool approach. And even though you are choosing that approach, I want you to remember what we talked about in that first slide, is that you're taking it one step at a time. Maybe with the actual curriculum, you're doing this traditional approach, but I want you to approach the learning style and how you interact with your child as this. We're all in this together. This is a lifestyle. This is an opportunity for us to learn and grow from the environment that is around us. The second column that I have on this slide is if you take more of an eclectic approach, and that means you want to create your own curriculum. You want to be able to pick and choose what you think would work based on your child's learning style and their skills and their talents. I might have a daughter who, she's not so great in language arts, but she's great at math. So I want a more challenging curriculum in math and a less challenging curriculum in language arts. When you're buying a boxed approach like Calvert, everything is 6th grade. There's no picking and choosing when it comes to, perhaps maybe with Sunlight, you can maybe pick one option or another, and Legacy, but Calvert and Oak Meadow, it's like one box for 1 grade. When you do the eclectic approach, you can pick and choose. You can say, I want Matthew C for math, but I want IEW for writing. So what I've done in this column is I provided a resource, a website. It's called rainbowresource.com. It is an excellent homeschooling website where you can literally go to each subject on this website, and underneath the subject area, they give you recommendations for different books based on the strengths of your child or what your child might be good at, or they give you kind of a blurb on each of the different curriculums. And every curriculum under the sun is on this website, and you can actually order many of the books on this website. Some of them have exclusivity, like Matthew C. You cannot order it on Rainbow Resource. You'd have to go to their specific website. But most books that I've found that homeschoolers use is on this Rainbow Resource website, and you can order like whatever books you need, whatever manipulatives you need on this website. And then I've also included in this column some other highly recommended homeschooling resources for different subject areas that you can, if you feel like this is something that you're up to and you've been waiting for this chance to create your own curriculum for your child, these are some of the things that I recommend. Brave Writer for writing and reading. IEW, it's the Institute for Excellence in Writing, is a great resource for learning how to write essays, particularly for the middle school age. Growing with Grammar is also a great resource for learning grammar. It's very straightforward. I like Matthew C. because it takes a very systematic approach for understanding math, and they have a workbook where there's like a worksheet that the kids can do every day, front and back. And there's a test booklet and a teacher's manual. So it makes it very, very easy for me as a parent to teach math. If math is not your strong suit, it also comes with a DVD or an online link that you can go to where you can just put it for your child. It's not live, but they watch it as an instructor to learn math. And then there's Khan Academy and Saxon Math. Life of Fred is a really great resource to learn math through storytelling. My kids loved it. They enjoyed it. It's mostly a supplement to the typical textbook. And then there's Real Science Odyssey and History Odyssey. These are very hands-on, boxed learning with regards to science, so biology, chemistry, and physics. And for history, there's ancient history and modern history. And it's got a lot of really great resources that I feel isn't too biased and is very diverse. But with history and science, those are the two subjects that I would recommend also using, particularly with the younger age group. Not necessarily using a textbook to learn, but to use books from the library, to go on nature walks, to go to the local nature center. I think that those are some, and watch documentaries. These are some of the best ways to learn history and science when it comes to the younger age group. That's what sticks. And then finally, I included OutSchool. It became very popular during the pandemic, but it was something that my kids and I were using for a while. Outschool.com is a really great online resource for specific unit studies or specific topics. So if your daughter is really into architecture, you can sign them up for an architecture class. And then there's some really great instructors that can provide that type of learning. If they're into anything, baking, it's mostly electives, but there are some other things too. Coding, I don't know, Minecraft, Lego building. They've got everything when it comes to electives that and it's pretty affordable. OutSchool is very affordable. And it's usually like a 3-week, depending, sometimes it's a 1-week class that your child can attend. And they're with other children there in the Zoom room. And the teachers gives them assignments and things that they can do online. And then this last column are options that are particularly tailored for Islamic education. I really like the Muslim educator. My daughters have taken classes with her before. She's also actually a very excellent Shakespeare teacher, and she teaches that as well on OutSchool. But the instructor and Muslim educator that I've worked with is Maryam Khan, and she teaches tafsir, she teaches reading of the Quran, and really to learn how to make a connection with the Quran. And she also teaches the English language. Ad-Duha Institute offers a lot of really great educational resources with regards to books of tafsir and the 99 names. The I Love Islam series, many of the Islamic schools use that, but you can order it yourself through many platforms. Noor Art is one of them. And then there's also the Suhaib Web, the Swiss site, and the Yaqeen site has a number of different Islamic education options for middle schoolers and high schoolers. And then I put a blog on their TJ Homeschooling. It's kind of blossomed over the years. They have quite a few resources with regards to worksheets, and it's all free. It's amazing, mashallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward the family that put this together. Worksheets and supplements and different options when it comes to Ramadan, Dhul Hijjah, tafsir of the Quran, stories of the prophets. And they also have a lot of things with regards to like just the main academic subjects, but I really love their Islamic education resources.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Dua, about 1 more minute, please.
1 more minute. Okay, so
yes,
I have 2 more slides left. I'm going to go through this one really quickly. My recommendations before you jump into this homeschooling is to really learn the laws of your state. Join a local homeschool group, or whether it's online, like maybe you could join a Facebook group in your county or a co-op. Because they can give you some pointers as to what's available in your area. And particularly, I learned this when I joined different homeschooling co-ops in my area, is that a lot of the centers in your locale provide homeschooling classes. So like at our local gym, they do homeschool swimming in the morning. They do homeschool tennis. The art centers do like watercolor and painting classes. That brings me to this fourth point is don't be afraid to create your own community or village of mentors. If you go to a shop, like a knitting shop, they sell yarn, or you go to a sewing shop or whatever it is, and you tell them, hey, I homeschool my kids. Would you be willing to teach them? A lot of people are really happy to, and they love to provide that type of mentorship. Or somebody who's a mechanic or who does woodworking or who's a really good cook. Ask them, say, I homeschool my kid. Could you teach them a lesson? And this is this shift, this mind shift that I'm talking about, is that learning doesn't have to be from a book. The skills that a lot of your kids can acquire are from people and mentors that are around them in the community. And while they're learning, it's okay for you to learn alongside with your child. They see that you're modeling for them that they're learning from their environment. And when you create that kind of ethic and understanding, kids grow as they move on to college, and as they grow, as they grow older, they take this mindset with them, is that as long as they have this ability and passion to learn, they'll learn wherever they are. And last but not least, I want to say that because you're around your kids most of the time and you have this responsibility, it is really important for you to take breaks and to give yourself the space and time for yourself, because I'm sure as many of you experienced during the pandemic, it kind of eats up our own personal time. So it's important to do that. And this last slide is myths of homeschooling, so we can skip that, inshallah, so I can leave the rest of the time for Sister Naima, inshallah.
Jazakumullah, Sister Dua. Definitely amazing information. I do have a few people asking if there's a way for you to share those slides. So I'm not sure if that's something you can share with our attendees. Thank you so much. We're gonna move on to Sister Naima. And just to let you know, Sister Dua was mostly focused on kindergarten through 5th grade. Sister Naima will focus on middle school and high school, inshallah. Mashallah, Sister Naima is a mother of 5 homeschool children, mashallah. She's currently in North Carolina manager at Zakat Foundation, I'm very sorry, of America Community Center, a community builder with a demonstrated history of working in the nonprofit organization management industry, mashallah. She's skilled in Microsoft Excel, marketing strategy, as well as homeschooling, project management, and public speaking, mashallah. Strong business development and a BS in focus in biochemistry from the University of Rochester. And definitely, again, she's a mother. She has had children that graduated from high school and moved on to college. So definitely she'll be able to help you in terms of what to do with your teenagers, your students that are going into high school and college, and give you a lot of tips and ideas on how to help them if you decide to homeschool. Assalamualaikum, Sister Naima. Thank you so much for being patient. The floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum. Just 1 minute.
Your microphone is muted, Sister Naima. Assalamualaikum, Sister Naima. Okay, maybe she's having some technical difficulties. Sorry there. I'm just gonna give her a couple of minutes here.
Just give me one second.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. Sister Dua, maybe you can answer this question as we're waiting. Some of the parents are asking, this option that you share, like Calvert and all that, is that something that's available only in your state? Is it regional, or is it all around the US? Is it nationwide?
No, Calvert Homeschool is available. Both of them are available all across the United States. Calvert is actually even available internationally, if that's something that you're interested in.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you, Sister Dua. It was a great information and presentation about homeschooling. So, assalamualaikum. So, I want to thank the Noor Islamic Cultural Center Education Department for letting us share our experiences with homeschooling. This is a picture of my family, and I wanted to share that because although, alhamdulillah, all my 5 kids were raised in the same household, they didn't share the same educational pathway. They took different things while they were learning. And I thought that would give you a perspective because no matter how many kids you have, everyone might choose a different pathway. And it doesn't have to be the same for them to succeed. My eldest, she went to Islamic school the first few years of her life, and then she did homeschooling, and then we also sent her to a private tutor. Many times sending your child to a private tutor is also very beneficial, because if you find the right person with the characteristics that go well with your child, that's really important. I feel like the 2-3 years when she went from grade 2 to grade 4 with a private tutor, where I would drop her to someone's house and she learned from her, that's when she developed her creative writing skills. She wasn't as social as my other kids, but she loved reading. She was a bookworm, and the years that she learned with her, I think that's what helped her to eventually become a writer. After that, she went to middle school. She did homeschooling again, and then she did Indiana University Online High School, and that's one of the many online high schools that you can find. And with that kind of high school type, what happens is you buy courses, and they'll give you the curriculum, and you have a whole year to complete it. So it's basically, you have to be self-disciplined, and you take, it's not something that's structured, but you have all the coursework. You decide when you're going to take your tests, your homework, and you hand them in, they're graded. There is no actual learning at that time, actual teacher-student interaction. You just do it by yourself. And I think that was also beneficial for her too, because she wrote books when she was in middle school, for example, and that took maybe 2-3 months of editing, and she had that ability, right? So she was able to concentrate her time during that time, just doing that. And then she could go ahead and spend the rest of the year to do her other classes that she wanted to do. So that was very important for her. And then she went to UNC Chapel Hill, and she finished her undergrad there. As for my second son, so what he did was he did the same homeschool Islamic school, but when he went to high school, he took community college courses. And by doing that, because he needed more structure, he couldn't, like, most kids, I feel, they can't do the same. You discipline yourself, you take your test when you need to. But with the community college courses, he was able to finish his associates when he graduated from high school. So you can do that even when you're in regular high school. You could be doing dual enrollment. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. And my other two, they did K-12 and connections. I think Sister Dua was talking about that. And those are very structured. You have live classes with your teachers, and you have times when you take your tests and you have to hand in your homework. And then eventually from 10th to 12th, they went to public high school. So I just want to show you that there's a variety of ways that you could do the education for your kids. I like to think of homeschooling, or even not homeschooling, even in public school. When I talk to the high schoolers in our community, I usually meet with 8th graders, or when they're about to go to high school, and we do a high school roadmap. Because it's always good in whatever situation you're in that you think ahead. So, and most of our kids, they want to go to college, right? So you want to maybe have them start thinking about college. What kind of college would they want to go to? What kind of degree would they want? What would they want to do? And it's never too early to start thinking about that. So when you look at the departments that different colleges have, then you can see the requirements, and that helps you determine what courses in high school you're going to do, what extracurriculars you need to be doing, and all those things. Creativity. I feel like homeschooling really lets you be creative. And the time frame that you have, like Sister Dua was talking about, how it's not like 7 to 2 o'clock. It's your day to make up, right? You can start earlier, you can start later. If you need to, you can vacation, you can go out and learn while you're traveling, like she was saying. If your child likes art, or if your child likes writing or a specific topic, you can have them concentrate on that. And that's totally okay, because that's what they're passionate about. Sister Dua had talked about virtual online school. And I feel like since most of you, I think, probably you're thinking about homeschooling because of the pandemic right now. And most departments, educational departments will let you do online high school. And I looked up Ohio. I feel like many of the people attendees are from Ohio. Many states have K-12 as a free online program. It's tuition free, full time. You have teachers who'll do real live classes, probably like 2-3 hours in the day. You're going to get a few boxes in the mail that have your textbooks, your workbooks, and all the experimental stuff you need for the experiments. It'll follow the traditional school year. And yes, you will have exams. You'll take the state tests. All those, they'll even have a place where you go and take your tests, and they give you the high school diploma. This is going to be available for you guys if you decide to do virtual instead of brick and mortar once August and September start with your schools coming up. Community resources. There's ample amount of community resources that you can take available of. Like, for example, there are local homeschool groups. Google it. All you have to do is go to Google, local homeschool groups. Sometimes, even if you're not part of their group, they'll let you take part in the activities that they are doing. Right now, I always look at Facebook posts where everyone's talking about how just in their neighborhood, they're making support groups. Like, you'll have kids going to 8th grade together, or 6th grade or 7th grade or high school, or they're taking a subject together. And people are forming those groups, because even if you're doing virtual academy, or even if you do homeschool as a lifestyle, you're going to need that social structure, the social group, that support and peer support, regardless of what you do. And then I wrote about state and national competitions. So if you're a regular homeschooler that does not, or if, let's say, you're doing virtual, you're going to see that you can still have your child participate in the science Olympiads, robotics teams, history day. They'll have all those things if you Google them and put them on for your state. And then you can see how your child can participate, even if he's not going to a particular school. I know homeschool kids can take part in all of these different competitions. So you're not really missing out if you homeschool. There's a lot of other ways you can participate in social activities. So I talked about how my second son, he did the community college during his high school. The benefits of those are, like, you can get, there's something called dual enrollment. Let's say, even if you're going to a regular public school, most of you will probably know about dual enrollment, where you get credit for both your high school diploma and also community, like, college credits. You'll get both. And what are the benefits? You get to see the rigor of college life, right? It's not easy. It's not the same. Probably your child will be one of the youngest in the class. And not only that, college experience is really, I found it really awesome, because my son, he found out that how to find out which class is best for you. Like, for example, you'll have this, in colleges, you'll have maybe 5 professors teaching the same class. He found out that the best way for him to find out which class to take is go look at you know how students rate the teachers. So he would look at that, and that will determine which courses he took. He found out at the community college that the best scenario for him is to always talk with a counselor. All those experiences, like, he used that when he actually went to college. So that was very helpful for him. Sometimes not every high school has the courses that you want to take. So you can look at your community college if they offer something. And it also helps in navigating different career pathways, because sometimes you can take courses that will determine, hey, this is something I'm really interested in, and maybe I want to follow through in the department I want to go to in college. And it also makes it the college application stand out. Okay. And also for the AP courses that you take, I'm sure you've heard of those. The reason most kids take the AP courses is so that, well, let's say your high school offers a lot of AP courses. When a college looks at your the course, your transcript, they'll see they'll judge you with the rest of the students in your school. So if they're offering a lot, then it's something that you should be taking, but definitely take only courses that your child is interested in, because just to make the transcript look good, it's not going to be helpful, because they're very rigorous in their work. Subject tests. So let's say you're homeschooling and you're not taking AP courses, and how will colleges determine how good you are at your subject? And if you take those SAT subject tests, like they're offered just like SATs throughout the year, that helps the college determine how good you are at your subject. let's say you took a weekend class, or throughout the year, you used to take a weekend class that was not offered in other times, subject tests are the best way to do it. I think we're running out of time, right? So one of the other things you can, for college applications,
1 minute, Sister Naima, you're doing good.
There's about 10 slots available for you that you have to write about activities that you've done outside of your curriculum, like outside your classwork. That could be journaling, any job you've done, any clubs, volunteering, arts, internships. I would definitely also look up a lot of things on internships. Like if you have a college close by, have your child look up different labs if they're into science, and then research about what that professor is doing and ask the professor, hey, I'm a high school student, but I'm really interested in the work you're doing. Can I come in and volunteer at your lab? Many colleges let high school students come in. So that's something I would definitely do. That's something my son did the last 2 years of high school, and he was able to continue that in college. Volunteering, that's the one thing that I love. And since I don't have much time, volunteering, as you know, is the best thing you can do because it gives you a sense of purpose. And colleges want to look and see that, hey, is this student only going to think about himself, or is he going to give something back to the campus, even in college and beyond college? So that's always something really good for you to think about. Volunteering during a pandemic, you might think there's not many opportunities for volunteering, but there definitely is. You can go ahead and look on the youth.org. You'll see a lot of opportunities where in our community, we set up high school students and they were helping each other and volunteering at the same time. Last slide is take advantage of the situation. None of us wanted to be in the situation where the kids are stuck at home, and most importantly, high school kids, I think they're more social. They need to go out. They need to socialize with their peers. I have a senior who had to spend his last semester at home, and that's not what he was looking forward to. But take advantage of it. In Ramadan, we were able to, even though we couldn't go to the masjid, we were able to pray 5 times together. We were able to read Quran together. There's so many things you can do right now with your kids that you wouldn't have been able to take advantage of that time. And if you are going to homeschool, make that niyyah. I'm doing it for, so that I get that chance to maybe impart some of my knowledge of my deen, of our traditions to my child. And inshallah, you'll be rewarded for that. Okay, Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you so much, Sister Naima. That was definitely a lot of important information, mashallah. Jazakumullah khairan, both of you. Inshallah, we're gonna spend the next 5-10 minutes answering questions. Sister Dua, thank you for taking care of some of the answers. So if you check into the chat box, you're gonna see that Sister Dua has actually already answered some question, but there are a couple that just stood out to me. And the first one is, does homeschooling mean as a mom, I lose my job or education? So whichever one of you would like to answer the question, please.
Go ahead, Sister Dua.
No, it doesn't. I actually work part-time and I homeschool. I do work part-time though, not full-time, but I do have quite a few friends who are homeschooling moms and they work. You just have to be very creative in terms of how you manage your time and figuring out what works. I tag team between my husband and I, you know, when he is off from work, I go to work. So I work like on the weekends, weekend mornings. Sometimes he goes to work late on certain weekdays, so I can work in the mornings, and then we kind of just tag team. And as they grow older, and I'm sure Sister Naima can talk about this more, you have more flexibility because they're more independent and they kind of learn on their own and they do their own thing. So no, it's not something that mandates that you cannot work if your kids are at home. I don't know if you want to add any more.
I mean, there's definitely a sacrifice. There's a lot of sacrifice you have to do. Mm-hmm. You won't have much of a big social life for yourself, because especially in the early years, you're going to have to set some time out just to do that tutoring and, you know, be the life coach for them. But yeah, at older ages, it's much easier.
Yeah. It's just, it's a matter of life. It's a lifestyle change, which I'm sure many of you probably experienced during the pandemic, is you just try to find these pockets of time. And again, because of this flexibility, you don't have to exactly at 8 o'clock in the morning have your kids do their work. Like sometimes I'm like, my kids are older, let them sleep in. I get my work done in the morning. And then when they get up a few hours later, I've got my 2 hours of work done, and then I can start doing work with them. So it's flexible. You can figure out whatever times works for you. By the way, I think I'm very non-tech savvy. So I think I sent my 2 links to the panelists and not the attendees. So I resent the coronavirus toolkit on the chat group to everybody. It's got a lot of really great resources, and I'm going to reset again the sign-in sheet if you guys would like to be added to the email list for the FYI, inshallah.
Okay, sounds good. So another question is it safe or psychologically appropriate to start homeschooling in middle school?
So,
Sister Naima, what do you, okay, sister, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dua.
So I'm not sure what you mean by safe or psychologically appropriate. I think with regards to middle schoolers, this is an age, or adolescence is an age where peers matter more than their parents, for sure. Like they influence them more. So from that perspective, it is important that you do provide outlets and opportunities for your child to interact with peers their age. And like Sister Naima was mentioning, there's so many ways to do that. You know, they could be a part of a soccer team, or, you know, like a club or a class or whatever it is that they you know, over the years, my children have acquired homeschooling friends that kind of grew up with them, and they go out with them even outside of the school or club experience. So that is important, that you provide that kind of outlet. With regards to, I think there's this myth that with regards to the schooling piece, there's this myth that somehow kids miss out when they homeschool, and because they're missing that, you know, they have that traditional school environment. And I would say, or I would argue or suggest that it's not that they miss out, they're becoming more well-rounded because they're exposed to so many different environments. Instead of being in a classroom with children that are all exactly the same age, they're exposed to kids that are from a wide range of age groups. So they're learning from kind of like the one-room schoolhouse a long time ago. They're learning from kids who are older from them, and they're learning how to be mentors to kids who are younger than them. You know, they learn from different adults in their community and their, you know, this village that you've created. So for many, I think that middle school age, homeschooling them at that middle school age exposes them to a lot of the skills that we want them to learn as they grow older. How do you have a conversation with an adult or someone who's older than you and ask them to teach you something that you want to learn? That's okay. And that's perfectly fine. And this is how, even when you read about during the seat of the Prophet ﷺ, this is how the young people learned. They went around asking and learning from the mentors that are around us. It doesn't necessarily mean a child has to learn by staying in one room with kids that are very similar in age or thought as them.
And I agree. Actually, middle school is the best time to homeschool, because they're just, you know, when you're in high school, you think they know everything. And they don't think they need a parent to tell them what's right and wrong and things. But in middle school, they're like a sponge. They'll learn whatever you teach them, right? And so it's a really good time to homeschool and get them involved in many different activities.
And it's and they're not, a lot of the things are not set in stone. So like a lot of them are, for many, they want to try different things. So you can plug them into so many different options. Like, okay, horseback riding, sure, we have the time to do that. You want to do, and by the way, again, this doesn't have to be an expensive approach. Like when my daughter wanted to learn how to ride a horse, I went to a local farm and I said, can she work in the farm? Because horseback riding classes sometimes can be very expensive. I said, could we do a trade-off? Could she work in your farm for 5 hours in exchange for horseback riding lessons? And the farmer was like, sure, absolutely, I'll take that, right? So you have to be creative in how you can do those type of things. And so my kids were exposed to so many different activities because of this particular trade-off.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. The next question is, what has your experience been with Ohio Connection Academy? So I'm not sure which one. I think Sister Dora, you can answer this one. And she's asking, would you recommend it for a first grader? Because this person is looking at flexibility and the ability to tailor the education with their schedule and their son's level and needs.
I'm not sure what Ohio Connections Academy is because I'm in Michigan, but if it's any
Okay.
So it's a Connections Academy. My child has taken that. Yeah, it's just like K-12.
Okay, yeah. If it's the same like Michigan, it's just an online program, and it's okay. I lean more towards when we're dealing with younger age group, like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, to move away from the online. I would rather them be learning more from their environment and the people that are around them. So my suggestion, my recommendation is to join either a forum online, like find a Facebook group, or try to look around for a specific group of homeschooling parents in your area that have younger kids and see what they do. I would rather them learn like science from the nature center or art from the art center that's in your locale, rather than having them sit on a computer online.
Right, and if you're doing that, you definitely have to register yourself as a homeschool mom in Ohio, where you're developing your own curriculum, right?
I'm not sure what the Ohio standards are, but I would assume so.
Yeah.
Michigan, they're very lenient. They basically say, do whatever you want.
So you don't have to report to them?
You don't have to report to them. I know that in some, that's why it's very important to check your laws, your state laws, because then I know like my sister-in-law in California, they have an inspector that comes every quarter and comes to the house, checks and sees what you're doing. But they pay for a lot of the curriculum, but they just have to make sure that you're teaching your child. In Michigan, there's nothing like that.
Right, yeah. So the 3 states that I've homeschooled, New York, you have to report, you make your own curriculum. But Ohio, they do offer K-12 and connections for totally free, which is not common in all the states. So if you're the first time homeschooler, that might be the first, that might be an easy thing to start off with.
Yeah, in Michigan too, they offer it free.
Okay, so last question. It's somebody's asking, are there any Arabic language curriculum or resources that parents and teachers can use, especially curriculum that can be accessed online?
Yeah, that one's a tough one because it's kind of hit or miss. My number one suggestion is, if you have someone in your community that can teach Arabic, maybe someone that teaches at the local Islamic school or the local masjid, and you can see if they can tutor your child, that's your best bet. That's what I did with my kids for many years. But there are also quite a few online options that have instructors overseas that teach, and it's you have to it's trial and error. I heard that Studio Arabia is one of those options that you could go on and learn. And there's also the Al-Fajr Institute online. There's Qurtuba online. These are all Arabic studies that the instructors are overseas, and you can learn those type of things here. I think a Duha Institute, and I think maybe Dar es Salaam might have also some books that you could purchase. But if you yourself can't teach the Arabic language through those books, it's not going to be very helpful.
Anything else, Sister Naima?
No. Like she said, if you can find someone in your community to teach Arabic, that would be the best one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. We have a few people asking about recording. This is actually live streaming on YouTube, and so you can definitely you'll be able to go back and watch it after this. And we're also recording it. It will be posted on the Know Ohio website, inshallah. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you, Sister Dora and Sister Naima, taking time from your busy schedule, to answer a lot of questions and give us a lot of information on homeschooling. May Allah reward you both and your families and grant you the best of this world and the next. Also, please, inshallah, if you're interested in finding out more about positive parenting topics, join our parent support group, inshallah, and I've posted the link on the chat box, and I'm posting again right now, inshallah. So please subscribe, and then inshallah have a blessed 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. May Allah accept all your du'as and, forgive our sins. May Allah remove this disease from us. Ya Rabbil Alameen, inshallah. So please, this is the time to make a lot of dua. May Allah accept it from everybody. Thank you so much. Jazakumullah khairan. It was such a pleasure to, hang out with the two of you. So many information. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. May Allah reward you all. Thank you to all the attendees. Inshallah, you can still send email to education@newohio.org if you have any question, and inshallah we'll make sure to get back to you. Jazakumullah khairan, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Yalla, assalamu alaikum.